Hi, I'm Deborah Barros Leal Farias. I'm an associate professor at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. Together with Guilherme Casarões, an associate professor at the Fundação Getúlio Vargas, FGV, in São Paulo, Brazil, we are the co-authors of the article entitled Heritage as Power, History and Tradition in Constructing Brazil's Far-Right Populism, recently published in the Review of International Studies as part of a special issue on heritage and populism. We start with the understanding that the past is political. What and who is studied, celebrated, or absent cannot be detached from politics, particularly when considering social groups and identities. Heritage can serve as an anchor for studying the link between past and present from a political angle. In a simplified way, heritage involves recognizing something from the past as valuable in the present and worthy of preservation for the future. The article examines the use of heritage in the context of populism. The article is interested in how populist division of society in an us versus them dichotomy in exclusionary politics intersect with appeal to the past and the weaponized politicization of history. More specifically, the analysis focuses on far-right populism's selective embrace of nostalgia. One key characteristic of populism is the separation of society into two homogeneous and antagonistic groups, the pure people versus the corrupt elite. We're interested in how populist leaders politicize in the past, essentially how heritage, broadly understood, is used to strengthen a particular understanding of the people. So who they are, what they stand for, who their allies or enemies are. There's a growing body of work that analyzes this intersection of heritage and populism, but much that has been written about. There's a visible lack of engagement with cases in the global South. Ethno-nationalism resonates really strongly with movements in Europe, but it's a bit more complicated when you're talking about countries that were heavily built upon the extermination of indigenous population and large-scale extracontinental immigration. The reinterpretation of the true original population can be considered murkier in the so-called New World. So empirically, we examine heritage politics under the presidency of Jair Bolsonaro, a far-right populist who ruled Brazil between 2019 and 2022. By surveying government speeches and policies, we develop a typology that uses heritage as a form of power. First, heritage as historical revisionism, which has mainstreamed, distorted, and or inaccurate history in the official narrative. Second, heritage as identity repositioning, which redefines some core aspects of Brazil's identity based on very specific understandings of history and tradition. And finally, heritage as alliance building, which brought Brazil closer to some countries based on shared narratives and legacies. Empirically, we find that the selective construction of heritage becomes an indissociable element of Bolsonaro's policies' quest for domestic and international legitimacy. Our findings highlight three valuable conceptual points for IR scholars. First, that populist reinterpretation of heritage can directly impact foreign policy, particularly on the thought processes behind alliance shifting. Second, we point out how populists can use heritage to define/redefine a vision of the so-called national interest that fits their particular agenda. And finally, our study shows how weaponized and faulty reinterpretations of history can create fictional global power structures that are either threatening, but especially perceived to be threatening a country, as in our empirical case, a supposedly real threat of a communist takeover of Brazil some 30 years after the end of the Cold War. I hope you enjoy our article. Thank you.